And I am blinded.
Oh, can you move to the end, maybe?
You can stay that way.
So maybe, or just slide down, be close to the
Oh,
door.
hey, I can almost see it. All right. That works. All right.
Okay, are you set?
I'm set. We're good to
We're
go.
good to go. Motion to open the meeting, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lampier? Aye. Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes. You're here, whether you're here or not.
In spirit. Okay, this is our budget workshop. Does any board member have any conflict of interest or any disclosure regarding the items before us?
Other than the compensation we get? No. It's
Okay.
embedded in the budget. Which,
Okay,
I do not.
I do not. All righty, do you want to sort of give the general
Yep, to
idea?
everybody here and online, just the same. If you wish to speak to the board, please, you raise your hand, give your address and then your name. If you're online, we're using Zoom, so if you wish me to ask the question, please put it in the Q&A. If you wish to ask the question, please raise your hand and ask everybody to be nice and get along.
Okay, first up, the multi-year financial and capital plan. And you have these sheets in front of you, the first set here. And big thank you to Dorothea and Zach and Francine and everybody just pulling out. Danielle, that's right, Danielle Reller, that's another, everybody really just sort of pulled together and really took, what we had as schedules already in place, and then we really just drilled down and took a look at how we expand on that and what does the future look like based on not so much wants, but as needs.
I have a request to begin,
Mhm.
Yes,
and that is that I was questioned about, because some people had written in emails, and they were wondering if they were going to be read into the record.
I have one email.
Okay.
And you all received the email, am I correct?
Yes, I received
Yeah,
it.
the entire board received it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have the email, and
And that'll be placed on the record, am I correct, Dorothea?
There was another person.
no, only got one.
She only received the one.
I sent an email. She said she sent an email at the last meeting. She thought it was going to be read into.
No, I apologize, I did receive an email from last meeting, and
Yeah, it wasn't.
Well, If we all
It was
received it, then
for-
you're putting it in the record, am I correct?
I'll put it
Okay,
into the record.
Okay, just so it's.
That was my other question.
Yes,
I
gotcha.
got answered.
Both
Okay.
emails, just the board swears in support of the multi-year
Mhm.
capital.
Which is great, because we're all supporting that plan, so that works out. All righty,
Look at Joan.
so,
So we're starting with DPW?
yeah, it's your top sheet, Village of Pittsburgh, it says BOP, DPW infrastructure.
Yeah.
At the top. Yep,
I'm still seeing the figure of 250. What happened to the 110,000 or something that I thought we had landed on for the bathroom replacement? Did I miss?
when
It's
did
still
we land on
250 here.
the 110, was that ARPA?
No.
I don't know where that's coming
No,
from.
the 250, I think, is Zach's estimate, because what you agreed upon was just the main building, not the
Okay.
plumbing, the fixtures, and other things.
Oh, that's right,
That's
okay.
just getting the shell.
shell, that's a shell.
Okay,
And, obviously, we'll try to control costs from there, and this is just a general estimate.
we're waiting for the.
Right, and we don't have bids, so it's still
Got it.
pie in the sky. I hate to
Well, I
say
mean,
that.
I don't know if it's super pie in the sky, but it's
But
a
it's-
closer number,
It's
probably.
a closer number, and you really should consider having a little bit of retainage, because you never know what's going to go up and down.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm. Okay, and. Yeah.
And my second question was, I'm assuming that this is prioritized for the DPW and the way they put this on the.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how this happened and why you're looking at it the way you're seeing things lined up. This dovetails with the priorities of the DPW that they brought forth every year, whether or not they've been funded or not, or put into the budget. So what you're looking at is the internal discussion and recommendation from the superintendent of the DPW, along with, the crew, because they all see this stuff and know this. So you are looking at the priorities going for year after year that they have put together. This is not a randomized sheet of,
Yes.
let's put this on. So you're seeing,
And I don't think they're prioritized within the year.
I think it's just within this year.
That's what I was
per se.
asking. So it's
Yeah.
not necessarily that they
Right,
prioritize.
right.
Okay,
I think
Because,
they're trying to get it all in.
I see.
yeah, this is what they'd like to see, the following projects under 24 and 25. This is what they see as a priority overall for DPW. I don't think frankly, it would be in the interest of planning to say, we must do this first and we must do this second, as opposed to, we'd like to get all of this done within the year, because there's so many moving parts with waiting on things and supplies and,
Right, you might be able to
So-
knock off 3 things,
Yeah.
and it'll take a little extra time,
Yeah.
so you have to maneuver.
And then if you see the legend at the top, what they tried to do is show you sort of, how things line up. And I see, they did it, they didn't use your categories, they did the color code.
They did,
Yeah.
yeah, they have categories within the colors, but we're
It's still,
different.
we're just trying
We
to flesh it
adapted,
out.
I tried to adapt to their colors for our sheets, so at least all of these are the same. That's fine tuning, as long as the board agrees we're at the right spot.
So we're still trying to identify the funding sources.
Yeah, that still has to be
Mhm.
worked out. Because we don't know. Some things right now are just straight budget because we don't have grants or anything to
Mhm.
work with.
Yep,
Okay, I'm good with,
So if we.
This page.
Okay.
Yeah, just a couple quick questions.
Mhm.
This doesn't include roads, right? So this is just the DPW infrastructure.
Yeah, but there is a road maintenance
There's
schedule.
roads
Yeah,
behind it. and then
it's broken out, yeah.
So what we're not doing yet, and this is for purposes of the discussion, we're identifying all the things that we think we need, in this case, specific from the DPW, things that they would like to see. In a way, it's ordered by year. So they're saying things in 24, 25, they find a priority over things they see in 25, 26, over what they see in 26, 27, and then there's some ongoing stuff that kind of goes past that.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
And you were saying you were interested in seeing this identified by quarter?
no, this is helpful for now. I mean, we certainly will want to get each of these lists on one single year view, right? So consolidate it all into one sheet. 2024, 25, DPW, items, roads, items.
That's the master sheet we
That would
were
be the
talking
master
about,
Right, that would be the master.
which you're doing.
Yep.
It's
So
a
that'll be the
work in
master
progress.
sheet.
Mhm.
And then what we can do from there is within the year, say, okay, what do we think we can do, what can't? What has to go to next year? Of all these things, which one's going to get dropped down, right? And then of all the things, the next time, what's going to get dropped down?
Mhm.
Or are we going to go and float massive bonds to pay for what's going to be millions of dollars, right? So that prioritization, that delay, or maybe it's tax revenue increases, maybe it's assessments, whatever allows us to get here. We don't know yet, but we got to prioritize it. So one of the questions that I had to do with and I just saw it on here, it's the first time I'd kind of talked about it, the solar roof at the DPW, awaiting pricing. I had never seen that or heard that to be a priority before from Zach. Is that
Which one
something-
was this, tell me again?
This is in 2024-25,
Uh-huh.
solar roof at the DPW.
Mhm.
I think, we're kind of smart, right? There's goals to be green. I think trying to create efficiencies for energy and energy use is good. But as far as, whatever that line is, whatever that cost is going to be, are we prioritizing that over street wiring? Are we prioritizing it over sanitary sewer camera mapping, right? And I think that's going to be, for me, this is a question of, is it actually saving us money that it doesn't matter what year we do it?
It may.
Right, so that's
Yeah.
kind of the,
Okay, and that, this whole program, the whole Climate Smart, clean energy program, there's a real upside to the program in terms of getting funding back that'll just absolutely pay for it. And if we do the solar roof, I believe it was in the Golisano report, it was that it would actually be net out the energy and sell it back
Yeah.
to the grid. So there may be an opportunity for not only recouping the cost, but offsetting and selling back and getting some more money in. I think that's wise that the crew, the DPW put it in there, because they saw that as something that would be like a net, you know?
I think these are the sorts of things that you put in there almost with an asterisk, which is at any point that you know that it's price competitive to get done, you consider doing it, right? The second thing is at any point you find funding that may not be related to the village's ability to fund it, but rather other sources, right? That might be something that we just hit up. And that's the type of thing, for me anyway, that if you can have, grant money, for example, trying to fund these projects, or we do it when we know it to be cost beneficial. Right? But I wouldn't necessarily want to go spend 30 grand on putting solar roofs on unless it's going to be, to our advantage to do it.
So and actually, the solar roof, I believe they're incorrect. It should be, see how it's put under grants, matching grants?
No, I see that. Oh, no, it's under Climate Smart, first.
It's just highlighted as Climate Smart Project.
Yeah.
That very well could have some grants attached
It
to it.
would be, and rebates.
Right, so,
But what's going to happen in New York State, and this is a much larger discussion, is that the rebates, all of that stuff's going to start going away. That the window is shrinking on that. So we, as a board, need to take a look at the timing of some of this to make sure we're maximizing what we can get as a rebate or grant or whatever. Yeah, they're all supposed to disappear by 2030.
Okay. So then I didn't have really any other questions, and I know Jack's not here as well. But
Yeah, but he
that's
said you
great-
guys could reach out to him, just directly too.
But that's a good start. There wasn't anything that I saw that jumps out like he knows better than I, right?
Oh, they got it going.
All right, so roads?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Well, also you're looking at deferred projects on some things.
Yeah, well, right, we can talk about inflation all day long, right? We got TBDs on 2026, 27. Obviously, we don't know what those costs will be, but the thing is, we should put in today's cost of doing it, so then we can at least mentally compute what the inflation might be. So I'd like to have dollar amounts there rather than just, hey, I don't know.
Just on current dollars.
Yeah,
Okay.
put current dollars. It's got to be something. And then same thing with 27, 28. We've got a bunch of roads there, and then roads in 28, 29. I think, again, we understand inflation happens, materials, all this is going to change, but I want to be looking at that master document and having at least today's cost be embedded. And maybe we look at it and say, that's not going to get done when we get there, right? And we've got to push it out, or maybe the cost goes down and we try to accelerate it because cost and pricing is attractive. But, I mean, these numbers.
Which is
I
what
think
you
on some
want.
of those projects, and I'll talk to Zach, you might have had a hard time coming up with a somewhat decent number because not knowing coring and needing to know some of the things.
Yeah.
And that's why he put coring on almost every project,
Yeah,
because the
because-
coring tells you the level of, deterioration and then remediation.
But I can have him give you the best range.
Yeah, but I think it's something, yeah,
I think what I would do
just
here is
something,
that
yeah.
if he thinks it could go like 50-50 between $250,000 and $1 million, and it's a 50-50 shot, put it right in the middle,
Yeah.
Right.
right? And
Thank
then
you
in the
for
notes,
that.
say this is the average of the high and the low, and we have no idea,
Okay.
something. Or you can defer to the highest, and then
Yeah, it's just
say
worst case scenario.
worst case scenario, right?
Best, worst, and most likely, okay.
Because the reality is, we're going to get to some of these, and we're not going to have the money to do it, right? Which is basically going to say, I don't care if you put the worst case or the best case in there, by the time you get there, you're pushing it out anyway, unless you're in a best case scenario, in which case it's the lower dollar amount.
Okay.
And this isn't meant to be disingenuous to the public, but if you have the high cost risk in the plan and you're budgeting for that, in a best case scenario, you don't have to go down the road of borrowing money. What you don't want to do is the other way and surprise them.
Yeah, yep, totally get that one for sure.
This vehicle plan is my favorite. I don't know why. I just think it's really well laid out. We got the.
Or you
right
still
budget
love
numbers
Tonka
down.
trucks.
Yep, there. I balanced the budget, if you can see.
I didn't see that.
It's
We'll
balanced.
still talk about the.
Cut it. Here.
All right. Do you know, and I don't, how well this is ordered by what he believes the DPW really needs? Or do you think it's ordered by more of a pricing? Where are we optimally for our trade-in versus the purchase?
It's a reflection of both, and that's a really good insight, because this has been such a big internal discussion,
Yeah,
that timing of things,
Yeah.
you know, could we take truck one for another year? You know, this has absolutely been, it's too bad Zach isn't here, because this is just
right. This
a
is.
lot of ways to spin this with this equipment. You know, that's the thing, because as you're seeing, there's timing about when you want to replace it, when it can go to auction.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah.
so keep going, I'm sorry, Dorothy.
Again, I don't think it's in specific replacement order, because
Yeah.
some of these, could we knock off? I think when I look at it, okay, can we knock off the biggest, or should we knock off 3 or 4 of the smallest? What should we do? Because
Right.
reality is, we can't knock it all off.
So here's just my thought. And again, you know how I am with the reserve funding for the budget, right? I want everything to go in reserve and come out of reserve. Rather than having a smaller ticket item be purchased this year because we could fit it in the budget, I would rather have the money saved for the bigger ticket item that's the priority, and then buy it next year with 2 years' worth of savings, and then slide some smaller item out. I understand there's maybe a degree of confidence and trust that Zach has in that approach, and maybe even just broadly as a board, that approach. But I do think that by putting things into reserve, specifically for vehicle reserve, right, you know it's going to come out, in which case, whether or not that money goes to buy something this year or goes to buy something 2 or 3 years from now, I'd rather buy it in the order that is optimized for need and value, not just would it fit in the budget this year, right?
Understand.
If that
And I
makes any
think,
sense.
I understand, but I think it's also the determination of the board. So we can make all the recommendations. At the end of the day, it's going to be the board's philosophy of which piece we try to knock off, or if we want to knock off something off the list this year.
Yeah.
So I think Zach's trying to give you some options where you could go with things and not necessarily putting them in order. Because if I had my way, I'd try to knock off truck one in this budget year.
Sure. Yeah, well, if you're looking at those 6 things, sorry.
No, I was just going to say really quickly, because I think it's helpful, and we need to get that put in, the age of the equipment, because truck one is 23 years old and totally past its lifespan,
Correct.
you know, and it's a backup truck essentially for truck two, which does the plowing.
Which is poor condition.
Right, so and that's,
And
This
Zach
is-
will explain his whole methodology with this.
which I still have some concerns, because you lose a truck that is the plow, not good. I mean, the
Right.
town can help out, but they've got their own plow, you know.
So the way this is prioritized.
Yeah,
The way he
so
has this here is
and that was
prioritized.
part of that discussion, because now you have a plow truck that's in poor condition, and you have the backup truck that's in fair condition.
Right.
That's an issue, I think. That's just me,
Was
You
his
know,
idea of
who's
using the
never
401.
plowed in her life, okay? Yeah,
But it isn't a case of saying, this is how much we have in the DPW budget this year available. It's not as if we've got, we have $500,000 for the DPW budgeted. How are we going to use that $500,000?
I wish that was the case. Actually, for equipment, I have next to nothing budgeted for the DPW, because we just don't have, that's a board discussion.
Yeah.
And to balance the budget, I took out this huge number because it wasn't fiscally responsible. We just couldn't do it unless we took out loans or something. My suggestion is, but Zach's going to argue whichever way is for the board. If looking at this in my position and concerns, I would look to replace truck two. If it's the main plow truck, like the mayor said, take some from fund balance. That truck is actually used for some sewer work, take a
Yeah, as
small
well.
portion for sewer,
Yeah.
and take some chip funds, and then wipe it out. Just get the big piece. That way it would be purchased, we'd have that, and then you have truck one as your backup. So you be set for at least plowing, because that is a priority for the village, no matter which way.
And the lifespan of truck 2, because we're replacing it, is significant.
Correct, and that would be 10 years.
And that's important. If we're going to use the CHIPS money, okay, it can be used for roads or equipment that has a longer-term depreciation of 10 years or more.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we can't use CHIPS for in equipment, but we can for this. So it helps us offset something,
Right.
you know.
And if you don't spend it, you don't get it, but you can get it every year.
We do get it every year, technically. They always say they can take it away, but I think there'd be,
And Zach's, and I know Zach's comments, because we've had these conversations back and forth, he'd really like to shift to using chips
only
for roads,
for roads, yeah.
which I agree with in philosophy, but looking at what we're doing, we're tackling a major road project. I'd like to at least knock off a big truck, because that's.
Well, money's fungible. I mean, if we're borrowing for a road, then you don't have to borrow for a truck.
Right.
So if you use chips for the road, then you have to borrow for the truck.
Right.
I mean, either way, it's an either
At
way,
this
yeah,
point,
you're right.
that,
you're right.
you know, how Zach, wants to do his equipment, that is a discussion for Zach to have with the board. Right now, we're just trying to present, the multi-year and make sure we're doing our vision of what you were looking at, why we have provided.
Yeah. Question on the trucks and truck. So obviously, you're talking about truck 2, but that would leapfrog ahead of these 6 other items that are noted in the 24-25 year. You're actually thinking about flipping 1 and 2. Zach will have some comments on that. We can talk about sometimes there's a value to running your really crappy truck for 1 more year.
And I think that's his argument.
And that's where he was coming from, but understand, he brought this up, of flipping truck 2 for 1 in the discussion. That's
And then
what prompted
using 1
the whole-
for the salt truck.
That's what prompted the whole discussion
Right.
The new truck
internally.
will want to be your salt truck
Right.
or your plow truck. Right. Okay.
Zach, I think in later discussions with Zach, and if I misrepresent something, Zach, I'm sorry. I think he was more interested in knocking off some of the other smaller items and leaving the bigger trucks to another time. But, which I get both ways. To me, the more you can take off your list, the less pressure you feel. But honestly, the big number trucks are what scare me, because they have such a.
And here's the other part of the balance. When you go back up to the first year of 24-25, and you look at some of the smaller items, they're still in good condition, but that means you get a better resale at auction. In other words, see, this is where it happens in a municipality, that balance and that timing of, selling things off,
So where you can replace, and that's a good example, like the skid steer. It's, at the end of the day, it's 17,000 by the time you sell the old one, buy a new one. That's a minor, and equipment cost, that's minor.
It's relatively low.
Could you possibly do a favor on this? It wouldn't be for the master, but it may be for this, for the vehicles. Could you identify in the conditions also the year?
Yeah, we were actually going to put it right after the
That works too.
the line item, of what
that's
it
been
was.
requested.
Yeah, that's already been
That'd be great.
requested.
Because then I can look at, for example, the case loader. So the case loader is depreciated 50%. Have we had it for 5 years? We've had it for 5 years.
And it depends on what the lifespan is of a case loader, and I think it's 5 to 7 on a case loader.
But if it's in good condition and it's 5 years.
Yeah, no, I
you get
hear you.
it for 5
Because
years out of it.
that's the other piece of it, is how often do they use the equipment?
Right.
Like, they go through toolcats like nothing, because they're constantly used. Now, the flush truck isn't used that much, and it's really old, and it's higher maintenance, this is the algorithm, the age of the equipment, the condition of the equipment, the level of maintenance, all of these, and the resale.
Eventually, we'll catch up to it, but again, putting this all on the single master list, where you're looking at next year's budget, hypothetically, between the 2 things that or the 3 things we've looked at, you're at 436,000, about 800 grand, it's now $1.2 million. And then the DPW capital improvement was another 360, so you're at $1.5 million, right? And we're doing a road, it's an infrastructure already for $1 million. It's not like we're putting another $1 million bond on the books. So the biggest challenge, perhaps, would be when we put this together for the master plan, is there any consideration that you guys could do internally, or maybe ask Zach to do, of slow it down a little bit? Make some thoughtful discussions without the board input, because what we don't necessarily want to do is have to say, of these 6 things, here's the one we would do last. Because the DPW is going to know better than we, when we look at
Yeah.
these 6 vehicles, which one we should delay. So I think, I don't know what the right number is per year of total spend, but it's not $1.5 million next year.
In defense of Zach, I think that we have had those discussions,
Yeah.
and I think it is time for the discussion with the board.
Okay,
I
okay. They're just
So
having
he
a hard
can bring
time
it back
tonight.
to the
I think
board,
that, you know,
and we can vet it, you
I
know.
think that really is,
I think when we line it all up, it's going to be easier to come back and say, all right, obviously this number is not possible of these things, which is your lowest priority. And what are we kicking? And what are we kicking? And
Yeah,
what are we
and
kicking?
I think too, Zach would like to have the discussion with the
Okay.
board. I think he's really looking forward to that.
yeah, that's, I'm not even gonna pretend to.
And it's going to be tough because we just hit up roads, we just hit up vehicles, we hit up the building,
Mhm.
right? And now we're going to the village hall, like our
Right.
most identifiable asset.
Correct.
The icon.
Thankfully, it's only 50,000. It's not bad, actually. Not a bad number.
I'm cheap.
It could be. Well, some of the things have been done.
Some of the things have been done, some things are looking at grants. The problem with the grants is we are gonna have to fund them, whether we do it out of reserve and wait for the reimbursement from the dormitory. That could take 18 months, that is a factor.
They're collapsing that time frame, though. They're really
They
working
are,
on that. That's been
Which used to be
huge for
over 2
villages.
years, so they are doing better, and if they're,
Yeah,
so, but the point of a grant like that is we're getting paid back 100%, so it seems silly not to do it, we need to do it.
Sure.
So we tried to prioritize the things we could get done with the grant, because with the dormitory, it's a tricky thing with the village hall. It has to be new, it can't be refurbished, so it can't be replace the windows, because those are being refurbished, they won't pay for that, they'll only pay for new. They don't recognize.
it's how the grant was written,
And they don't recognize.
yeah, initially, years ago.
Yeah.
So, which is fine. I mean, we still can work with
We
it.
got the product,
We're good,
so
we're
we
good.
should
We
be
can still
around.
cover a lot of things that are needed. Yeah.
To clarify from my own information, we do need to make certain that we have the money budgeted, because we can't depend on the grant. We're
No.
not going to move forward with unless we have the grant.
We have the grant.
Which way?
We have-
right?
We have the grant.
Okay,
What I'm saying is you have to spend the money to get the money back.
right.
That's all we're saying. We just have to come
Yeah,
up.
we're just
So
doing
these
it,
green ones,
Yeah.
have been
Isn't it-
identified.
yes, already have a grant.
Yes,
That's the way I'm
yes.
reading this. Okay,
Yes.
okay. So it's not that they're
It's a $100,000
doable with
grant.
a grant, it means we
No,
have to.
no, no.
Have a grant.
Grant.
And so that's why it's actually literally identified under funding source 1. We wouldn't fill it in this way unless we didn't have the grant.
Okay,
Yeah, in fact, that's the only time I think you'll see it.
okay.
with the
And what I
exception of-
did is I noted it's coming out of reserve / could be fund balance, because it actually, it's got to come out of somewhere so it can be
Yeah.
paid back.
Mhm.
If I may,
So we have to have the money up front. is
Yes.
the bottom.
Yeah, and that is typical of, I would say, 99% of the grants from the state, is you cough it up, you pay up front, you show the receipts, and then they bring it
review it
back.
to death. And
Yeah.
then they send it.
Yeah,
my understanding of these, and this is just part of the prioritization of all of this, for these grants were off of, what was the name of that grant?
That's coming from the back entrance, when the board decided not to do
Yeah.
the back
The
entrance.
back entrance. So all of these are the back entrance.
what you
Yeah,
see in green.
this is
About 100 grand?
Yeah.
$100,000 for that back entrance grant, and the board
Okay.
decided they didn't want to move forward with the back entrance.
That's right.
So this was the discussion that we have had with the assembly person's office, who originally, where the grant originated,
Yep.
and the grant dormitory. Okay,
Correct.
so.
They delayed it,
Yeah,
but
so-
allowed us to continue to
So
get it.
just to finish up.
Right.
So what you're looking at is the repurposing of the grant that we were awarded 7 years ago, 6 years ago, that was never used, and now we're able to use it on this building, because the grant was tied to this building, yeah.
Correct. And if I may, and I'm not trying to put any words in their mouths or just be dismissive in this statement, but these grant items that we've identified are sort of the arbitrary goals of the staff and the administration for the improvements and the allocation of that.
Actually, the items that you see have been identified by the Golisano Institute for Sustainability, the HVAC system, and also our liaisons to the Climate Smart Community Program, as well as the Clean Energy Program for the HVAC system. I'm not sure if it was, let me just drop down just before, I'll get back to that again. The other items that you're seeing, the other two, were identified, I think it was 21 years ago, by Bureau doing a building assessment, and we have that report here. And then the electrical review was identified by the fire department, and when we had the fire, basically, is that we needed to have an electrical review. And that also came about as well because of the meeting room upgrades, that we would have to take a look at the electric. And also, if we were eventually to put EV chargers in the back, what would that look like? So we have a concern about just, in general, the wiring in the building because of the fire, so these are sort of upfront identified with, other professionals. So.
And I would say that the HPV loan has noted the columns.
Yes, Ginny Searle came and addressed.
I would say the building, the building itself is yelling for.
So let me ask you this question then, talking about the back entrance and the allocation of that. Clearly, some of these climate smart goals and Golisano, the furnace, these things are things that we need. And looking through the rest of the stuff in 2024-5, for me, these things that are highlighted in green are probably close to the priority items, right? That said, when I look down to 25, 26, and I start to get to the ramp railing, the back entrance, or the front side stair refurbishment, we're talking 15, 20 grand of visual cues that the building is starting to fall into some disrepair.
Correct.
That may be perhaps more of a priority than, I don't know.
No, those stairs cases,
so
they're safe.
Okay, so let me say it slightly different. Maybe it's not reprioritizing those items over the things that are in green, but maybe it's reprioritizing those things over computers or shelving or 2 more desks. I don't know. I'm just asking this question. Like, there are things about the building that might want to take some precedent over some things.
Okay, so let's speak to that, I also want to say that the concern with the HVAC was also an assessment that was done by our building inspector as well, and in addition to Golisano, that it's maybe one more year, like it's on its last leg.
It's hanging.
But let's get to, let's take a look at that, because I know, we're looking at the building in entirety with, as I'm understanding that. So the items of, the ramp railing or the emergency exit in the back, and then the side stair, I think the thought was that it was certainly a priority in some level, but less of a priority to the extent that the usage of those stairs, and they still are identified as safe by our building inspector, is minimal. It's absolutely minimal usage, where, we have the column, these are sort of the high visible things, the columns structurally, we want to make sure they're going to be okay. I actually don't have a problem with them in the following year, because they're not used that much, they're not highly visible,
I'm just making sure priorities.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but I'm talking, what I'm sharing with you all now is our internal discussion about that, and why it was saying, we can do this the following year. We could certainly make that happen, and DPW said they could maybe do a bit of the work as well, things like that. So it became less of a, an upfront sort of concern. That exit may, and there's already proper egress, okay? There's already proper egress identified by our fire marshal and the fire department. That egress is maybe, for 6 people occasionally, maybe.
And we have fixed the stairs that were of concern. We've made it safe. It's been
Yeah.
blessed. Honestly, what we're looking to do is refresh it.
Yeah, it would actually be refreshing and just,
All right.
making sure,
I'm
yeah.
just asking
No, there was-
questions. and
Oh, no,
maybe-
but we're giving you the internal
Yeah.
discussion.
And we're gonna have to push some of this stuff out
You know,
anyway, so like.
I mean, these are the hard questions, and we did have those discussions, which is a priority.
Could you, coming back to the 24-25 on capital improvement, could you change the second from the bottom on 24-25 where it says roof snow clips?
Nope.
I don't think that involves
Oh.
replacing 2 desks.
Oh, it cut and paste. No, that's,
The cut and paste moment, yeah.
We're gonna put some
Good
desks
catch.
on.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get a great view that way.
yeah, no, that's the clips that go up there to keep the snow from sliding down.
I also think, again, because we're gonna have to start delaying some stuff at some point, will the computers last another year?
I can't guarantee that, nor will I. Our computer's 3 years tops, and they run 8 hours a day. I'm sure you work in an office environment. They go. They just go.
Yeah.
And I think I have 2 slated. It's always been a budget item. And honestly, I think taking it out of the budget is a big mistake.
Yeah, it's been a budget item for
Every
years.
year.
Every year.
Every year.
It's a budget item,
Yeah.
so I don't.
It's a
think-
budget item, but let me also tell you, I look at it, and if the computers are going fine, and I don't need to replace the computer, I don't.
Yes, you don't put it
Okay,
in.
so to that end, I think in that it's a budget item, and it's just an ongoing persistent cost that we're rolling year over year over
Yeah.
year. Don't have it be a reserve capital improvement, just kick them all out.
Okay, that's fine. I put it in here because I was told to.
Oh.
But,
By me?
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that's
think we should
okay.
probably kick them out.
I agree with that, because it's an ongoing expense, but you look at it as you need it. I mean,
Plan B.
if I can get a computer to go
Fine.
4 years, I'll get a computer to go 4 years. It's not automatic. It's when it really becomes, I gotta call IT too many times.
Yeah.
As much as I think that it probably shouldn't be in the budget, if we're rolling a purchase of a computer as an aggregate IT, and you're doing a little bit every year,
Mhm.
right? I mean, at one point, it might be nice to get to the cloud and have somebody who specializes with small municipalities, basically,
You're already in the cloud.
so we're completely in the cloud.
Yeah,
Do
we don't have a
any-
server.
We don't have a server here at all.
No,
Got rid of it.
Okay,
Nope.
so then these computers are gonna be lasting a lot longer than,
They do pretty good.
they
I
should be
mean,
lasting a lot
better.
longer.
It is better.
it's
Yeah.
better. It's definitely improved.
Right.
No, they definitely don't get replaced unless they
Okay.
need to. I have some.
Are we on a contract,
with
like
the
a
cloud.
lease? No, for our computers, or
No, we
we buy
don't
them
use their
outright?
computers.
Does anybody lease them to municipalities where they just provide persistent, high quality?
I don't know that I've heard that.
And is that a little bit too?
I think that's, my younger years, I did hear about the leasing more often than not.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people just buy the computer
Yeah,
because they're,
they
and,
buy computers, they buy the phones,
yeah, they just buy them.
you know.
Right.
it's-
I mean, it's running around 1,300, 1,400 for a new computer.
They've gotten a lot less. over the
We,
years.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we keep the monitors.
Right.
The only reason we upgrade monitors is now bigger because people need to see. But honestly, we really don't.
You don't even need much.
I kind of think this is a fairly straightforward line item,
I think just cut it out of the capital.
based on
plan.
everything you're saying, yeah.
Right.
I'm hearing you.
Honestly,
Maybe somebody tells us to put it back in, but I'll say, I hope. it's
Yeah,
not
we're here
me.
now.
Okay. Now, this upgrade existing lighting to LED in the basement,
yep,
is that the only place you don't have it right now?
we're pretty much changed in all the other rooms.
Yeah, this is LED.
That's the only place, and I don't think it's a major change. We do need to take a look at the Legion area, but I think that's something DPW changes and knocks off as they get time.
And then we accrue the points as a climate smart community, and, for doing the LED lighting. Anytime we put in an LED bulb, we get points,
And
so.
it's
And it
$1,000.
reduces our overall electric bill anyway.
It's $1,000, honestly, it comes out, it can be
Admittingly.
miscellaneous in my budget.
So
Yeah, we could take,
is there any way we can maybe build a little bit of the electric downstairs? to somebody else and.
That's part of the whole.
We're talking to the Vatican, Diane.
I appreciate 100% of everything.
I know, we do.
Okay.
But, let's talk through, because the light bulbs are sort of a one and done, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So should that just be go back, like, I'm listening to your logic here about the computers, is that just another line item? And then it's done and we get the points and.
I mean, it's
That's
not
what
a lot.
I
We're
know,
down in the
that's what I'm
thousands.
thinking.
Well, it's not going to make it in the budget this year, so why don't we just leave it in here for now? Right? Because
Sure.
you can't, can you do one bulb? You could do.
They can go down and do a couple bulbs at a time. It's one of those things that come out of miscellaneous.
It is.
It's not a big thing. We can even start it this year when they get.
Like these, when we did these, that just was out of the budget,
Yeah.
you know?
The reason why we're doing this, though, is all these little things, we do this 5 times, and all of a sudden we got a skid steer. Well, I don't know what it costs, but like, the point is,
Mhm.
5 of these little things that you just do, all of a sudden we have a piece of equipment that was about to fall apart tomorrow.
Mhm.
If this is already technically in the
Yeah.
We could do it.
budget, it's not
All right.
a big number. It's-
So I think this is all very good work. It is very challenging to see how big the numbers are.
Isn't it? I know, a lot of moving parts.
It would be nice to see if we can, I don't know, what's the right number? I don't know what the right number is, right? Maybe our municipal finance counselor
Well, that's,
can assist.
if
in
the
maybe-
board is happy where we're at, okay? I mean, there's some little finessing, but we can start bringing this to them and they can help. with
They can help tweak it.
steps.
You know what I would do before I bring it to them? I'd try to put it all on one sheet.
We do the master
Do the
sheet.
master.
Do the master.
Yeah,
If you can get the master to look like either the 5-year capital improvement at the DPW or their, some combination of that in the trucks or vehicles. like
You don't want them in one workbook, you want them all in one sheet.
One sheet where you're looking at 1 year, and then what I would do is I would have A, B, and C, or D, but the DPW building and capital improvement. I'd have Village Hall, right, capital improvement. I'd have road, or
just with the totals.
DPW
Just totaling it
vehicles,
up on the
vehicles, and then Village Hall.
Mhm.
I'd have the names, the primary name of everything, and the dollar amount, and then at the bottom, a total, right?
Mhm.
And I wouldn't have it in outline format, I'd try to have it in Excel, okay? And then once you do that, you're gonna see the
Mhm.
million
I see where you're
five,
going.
million eight, and you know you're not gonna do it.
Mhm.
And then when we start to prioritize, which is what we're gonna need help possibly with the consultant, or maybe we do it amongst ourselves, we're gonna have to kick 800 grand or maybe $1 million of that
Mhm.
down.
No, I understand where you're going with that. Also, before they get this too, is in addition to the master sheet, they need to plug in the current dollar value of some of the future projects, just so we're
Yeah.
shaping it up that way,
But to the point that you had mentioned 6 months ago, right, or whenever we all started this, a lot of the work was probably already done, but now it's in a method where when we start to consolidate it, we know the decisions that we're going to need to make. And when we start prioritizing this, the best part about it, and this is going to speak a little bit to the grant comment when we eventually get there, which is we're going to have everything we want to do, right? We're going to have everything that if we don't have the money to do, we know we can go ask for it. And because it's on the master list, we're all advocates of getting money for anything on the master list, right?
Okay, so at this time, is the board agreed we're on the right track, we're 95?
kind of going in the right direction.
Well, great work. We got to.
Because we just want to make sure you're
Yeah,
not starting from
before we go to
scratch.
the next
Yes.
step.
I think the hardest part about this is going to be, we're going to come to this, and then as a full board, we'll want to say,
Mhm.
keep this all in this year, all this stuff goes to the next year, then these things, all right?
Exactly.
We're going to have to make some really hard
I know.
decisions.
Okay, but we're good to move this to the master.
But you know what's great about this, that we're really appreciating, is that for so many years, things have just been deferred. Now, even if it's deferred, we know it's somewhere else in that pipeline still. It's not going away, and we're starting to see the flow, hopefully, to get back on track. So that's a good thing.
And I also think too, and this speaks again, I know it's hard to envision it working maybe because we haven't done it, but I think we all agree that we want to do it. which is you identify all of this, and then you pick a nut, whatever that nut is, and that's your reserve funding. And all of that is going in the right spots to fit the
Yep.
dollars that we put in here.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
So I included the financial plan part because I could start filling in the numbers from what I've done with the budget so far, but I can't fill in all the pieces because we just don't have them, like the equipment and the capital. I have very little in there. So it just was a start to filling that out and for our own school.
And there's one other just comment, and this brings me back to the last board meeting, and that is, as we look at everything on this sheet, everything is second fiddle to South and Wood, right?
So at this point.
At this point, that is that decision that we made, right? That we're moving down this road to get the engineering work done, quite possibly to float the bond. But what that's saying is South and Wood is the priority over everything here. And I think the real question for us when we step away from today or next week is asking the question, is that actually what we want? Right, I know we've ventured down this road, the engineering work's got some staying power. We're writing this document as though that is the presumption, right? South and Wood, 100% priority, and then we do all this. But is that the right approach? And again, I'm not trying to predetermine that answer.
Yeah, and then there's other moving parts to South and Wood. We have the $100,000 grant towards, the sidewalks coming up to code. But, I mean, so just to follow your line of thought, even though there's nothing preconceived about it, is that do we end up just doing the sidewalks? But the problem is specifically with Wood, if we do that, Wood
Wood is already up to the sidewalks, right?
Wood is essentially a driveway.
Right.
So that's the thing, the hip bone's connected to the knee bone, so I think there's some additional considerations for sure.
And this is the type of thing too, that when we line this up, right, and we all have it in the year brackets, and we look at 2025, 26, and you look at Sutherland, you look at $1 million. Well, if we're not doing some of the 24, 25 stuff because of South and Wood, and that's getting dropped down to 25, 26, but then you look at Sutherland being $1 million, and now everything in 25, 26 is getting pushed down to 26, 27, it starts to look very difficult.
Yeah, and I think what you're seeing, and what Zach used the word bottleneck, you're seeing everything hitting the bottleneck because of things being deferred. And so, as he said over and over again, he goes, none of these are wants, they're needs, and so this is where it's going to be tough sorting through it.
But,
it's the come to Jesus moment.
So herein lies the question, there's only 3 of us here, but what's the way to solve it? Is it revenue? Is it wait for reassessments? Is it tax rate increases? Is it debt and then you straddle the budget for future years? Or is it work with what we got, cut services, right? Do things to just squeeze the budget and not do some stuff that we've done?
These are all the questions that come up over and over again in our internal discussions can we get from A to B? We probably can get from A to B. We don't know how to get to C, D, and E,
Yeah. I mean, you can get there with tax revenue, but you can piss a lot of people off doing it.
Well, yeah, and that's a whole other level of discussion.
So what I'm,
and grants,
Right.
that I want to make sure we're always, factoring in grants. We haven't been nimble enough on many occasions, but I think now with the plans and pieces in place, we can be far more nimble.
maybe the third option
Going
is
forward.
fundraising, right? Fundraising. We go find the money.
The next step is, I'm understanding it, as I'm remembering it, is that once we have the budget in front of us, then comes the hard work of prioritizing and deciding
It's right here.
what needs to go.
That's right.
And it could be that we say, well, take 10% off of everything, and to get to the figure you want to get.
And hang on, because Dorothea's going to chime in.
Okay. I leapt ahead, did I?
A little bit,
Okay.
because I left the meeting last time, and we had a huge deficit.
Because we just wanted to show, if we dumped everything in, this is what it would look
Correct, and
like.
I only had dumped one item in,
Yeah,
and it was scary.
yeah,
I don't live well with an unbalanced budget.
Yeah.
So Dorothea went back, and as the board authorized me to do, I did a bare bones
Mhm.
to sewer. I went through, did reality for numbers,
mhm,
and I got it down. And with my proposal, with this draft,
Mhm.
I have it at 3.41 of tax increase, and that's very modest. And that's keeping waters calm.
That isn't even cost of living. I mean, 3.3, I thought
That's
was
what-
below cost of living.
3.41 is what
And that's-
we.
That's it. I don't see any other revenues coming in.
Mhm.
I've squeezed everything where I think I can squeeze and dropped and cut. So this is the point where the board goes, if we want to add something, you got to tell me how you
How
want
do you,
to pay.
how do you want it to look?
Because this is where you really have to make those hard decisions. I have it at bare bones.
Because our primary sources of revenue are tax, the taxes for property and for, we have sewer rents,
Correct.
you
Sewer
know,
department.
and we also have sales tax.
Correct.
Those are like the three biggies.
And sales tax, we've been lucky to have.
We've been tracking,
surplus.
yeah. we've
But
been
right now,
tracking.
we're tracking right where I want to
Mhm.
be for this current year's budget that sets a tone for next year. If I was seeing an increase overall, like I have in past years, I would be going, okay, we can take another. I'm not feeling super confident on that.
Personally, I don't think it's a good idea
No,
to do that. I mean, it's a lovely gesture if you can do it, but given the current economic,
reality is.
reality, it doesn't do us any favors because we can pay for it in the end.
Exactly.
We can use it.
Exactly.
So this
General-
year-
General fund.
You're not seeing any huge jumps in sales tax.
Yeah,
No.
so I would say, and I'm in agreement with Dorothea on this, she always does worst case pretty much for sales tax. Like, if we get a little more, great, but you're still tracking, like unbelievably, with what the projection was. So, I mean, I'm comfortable with that in the same way
Yeah,
with what
given
you're saying.
over the last, I'm going to say 8 years with only one or two small steps.
Mhm.
Typically, we were looking at 4%. That's usually the number that was being
Mhm.
thrown around,
Mhm.
3.5 to 4%. One year, we had to take a hit because of everything that was occurring.
Mhm.
But basically, I think that the fact that we haven't gone up more than that is
This
something
year,
we can be sort of not proud of, but actually,
Well, what it's done is it's kept us stable. It hasn't enabled us to get beyond that. And that's the piece you're speaking to, is if we keep doing what we're doing,
I think we have to keep in step with inflation.
okay, I hear that, but I'm just saying, over the longer view of what's happened and where we are now, to keep in step with inflation and also recognizing that, we had over a decade of legal fees.
Yes.
So what did we go through? Almost 2 million, 1 point
A million, I
something?
think.
No, it was more,
A million.
2,
A million, too.
2 million.
2
2
million,
million.
almost 2 million.
Wow. Okay.
So when you look at that relative to what our actual budget is, that's a big chunk. That, how do we, quote, make that up? Do we make that up? What does that look like? Do we just keep up with the cost of inflation and keep the show going?
Yes.
How do we get to a point where we have enough funds built up to reinvest it back into our village? How do we do that? That's where we are. That's exactly
Finding a
what we
way
were
to
saying.
grow plus get projects done without breaking the bank.
So when you present to the board, you might, which is typically, I know what you do, is you show us what it would be at 3.5 and also
Give
at 4
scenarios.
and 4.5, to
Look
give
at
us an
scenarios.
example of where we are.
What you have right now in this packet
Is
is
3.5?
3.41.
Okay.
If we want to get technical. We're at even, this is where I see with everything we have to pay for, have to do, and the bare minimum. If we want to add projects, that's where we start looking what we want to do. Do you want to raise it a little bit? Do you want to use some fund balance? How do you want to do it? This is where the board tells me. But if you're going to tell me, you got to tell me where you're going to get the revenue for it.
All right, so let's talk just a little bit on the budget for a second. Can you provide a 10-year look back on property tax revenues and a 10-year look back on total appropriations?
Yeah, yeah.
Because what I'd be interested
Where are you
to
going with
see
that one?
is, if our property tax revenue 10 years ago was 500,000, right, and today it's what, 850, 900? It's in here, I just didn't see.
Yeah, I know.
964. is-
964 for this year, I'm proposing 997.
Yeah, so let's say it was 500,000 and today it's 964 and we're 10 years ago, right?
Mhm.
Is inflation such that that 964 should be 1.1?
Yeah.
Or is it where it should be 760,000, right? Are we over or under inflation? Now, this speaks literally to your point, which is regrettably, right, assessments don't keep up with property values. But the
Yeah,
only way
we
that,
do.
right, so the only way that we can keep our property tax revenue consistent to provide the services is if we either see assessments go up consistently with costs and the rate stays the same,
Mhm.
or the rate goes up because the assessments don't.
Don't, yeah.
And I think
That's what
what's
the county
happened,
just went through.
I think what's happened is
Yeah.
probably a combination of rates have gone up some,
Mhm.
but assessments haven't gone up as much. And what regrettably then happens is it gets even harder for people to move into our community because they're the ones bearing the burden of the new assessment at the highest rate,
Mhm.
whereas the people who are here already are kind of indentured. Now, I'm not suggesting let's go reassess.
Yikes.
But I would hope that, to Lily, your point, if inflation goes up 10% and assessments are flat, we should have the confidence to say we need 10% more. Now, it's really hard to do, because a 10% hike in rate
Yeah,
is big.
I don't know that we've ever done
Everybody
that.
Everybody would rather see a rate hike than a reassessment. The challenge here is if the next year the home goes up
Yeah, you're going to make up for
10%,
it sometime. Yep.
you got to give it back. And I've never known a politician, frankly, to give it back,
Mhm.
because they like to spend. That's the real hard part.
So with it, and this was also another part of our discussion, just to follow your line of thought, the right now at the 3.41%, I think we averaged it out, it's roughly $15 per household.
Right.
Yeah, it's
You
a
know,
minor increase.
it's a couple of lattes,
Well,
you know.
what you might have understood in my line of thinking is, by having reserves
Mhm. Yeah.
and having a long-term plan,
Mhm.
and knowing how underfunded we are, if we go ask for money and know that that rate hike, 100% of the rate hike is going into reserves
Mhm.
for all these things that we just said we know we need. It's easier to say that
Yeah, I hear where you're going with that.
than to say we're going to bump up costs to pay for some stuff now that doesn't have the confidence in the mechanism to know that, right, it's going to go to what we want it to go to, right, and what we've agreed it to all go to.
So the rate hike, the way to describe the rate hike to residents would be, it would go into the Village Hall Savings Bank,
It's going into
you know,
reserves
for
long-term
reserves, it's our
projects that
savings
we
bank, you
haven't-
know.
that we need to get done. Like, we just 100% need this stuff done. And we don't have the money for it. And we don't want to float a bond all the time for it.
Yeah, that's
No,
what
we don't want to
that's
take
what-
on too much.
That's what the alternative is.
That's what the alternative is. And so it's just like at home, like, do you go into a bunch of debt and pay debt, or do you save for it? And with rates at 5% on a CD, or whatever you can get these days at the banks we're using, that's a pretty good rate of return, keeping up with inflation at 3.3 or whatever it is now.
And I think what a lot of, and this we brought up in our last presentation, our presentation from last year and the year before, and I think it does have a solid impact, is most residents, they'll say, my taxes are, wow, I can't believe how much I pay in taxes. But if you take a look at how many cents on the dollar or go to the village, it's like 3 cents,
Right, it's very cute.
you know? And I think they just take a look at, you know, like the combined, you know, the school tax and the county bill, you know, everything's sort of in there, they're going, ah, you know, that's something different, you know? So I think that's part of, again, always part of the discussion, that I think frankly, villagers get a great bang for the buck. Really, yeah, Lily.
when you look at the revenues over the last 5 years, there's only a difference of, well, there's a pretty big difference, $400,000. So
Well,
that's a
we've,
pretty healthy increase.
since 2020, we've had an average of 7% increase year to year with all of that. But what we did have, I think in 2020, was a 20% increase.
Right.
And then we did a 20% increase, I think it was a little bit more. It was in 2017.
Mhm. I think it was 2017.
There was a,
We had two big jumps those years.
Making up for years prior that we didn't.
Oh,
Yeah, that we're
There's never
still,
been this consistency of,
yeah, there's still the loss. I mean, and then since 2020, what has held back for us is the assessment has gone down. It just keeps triggering down.
Yeah, and one of the bigger challenges too is the way we have seen salaries and payroll go up,
Mhm.
right, has
Mhm.
been significant.
Yep.
And
Huge
our
portion of our
costs, materials costs,
Mhm.
employment
Keep going
costs,
up.
labor costs,
Mhm.
these things are going
We
up
have to
at
keep
rates
pace.
different than the average, right?
Mhm.
So, and I think the other challenge too is anytime the municipality asks for more money, one of the hardest things to say or to respond to is, well, you guys just waste money in government, you're so inefficient. But if the tax rate is going toward consumption and purchases of things that frankly we don't have much control over cost on, right?
Mhm.
It's a fairly direct one-to-one relationship if we end up bumping tax rates up specific to a line item in the budget that is, the entire increase is related to reserve funding.
But see that, and I'm glad we're having this discussion because I guess I'm trying to think of the right language, that, yeah, it is transparent, people see the money, it's like, if we're doing this increase because it's going to go into a reserve, it's going to help fix all the roads. Or we're doing this increase because it's going to help with, I don't know, well, sewer's a little more, sort of nebulous because you just want to be able to flush. But I think like roads or, improvements that people can see, because there have not been, when was the last major capital improvement done by the village?
That would have been
Tell me again?
by the pickle factory.
So that wasn't that even a big project. So that was in 2007.
roads, the street behind online.
That's growth.
Grove Street, that's the one, Grove.
Grove Street.
So that wasn't that big a project though, and the town worked with us on that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Grove Street was the last.
So that's
Yeah.
7 years.
Okay.
And then the one before that, I think, was another 7 years, so there hasn't been a lot of that reinvestment. But I think if it's framed that way, where we need this because we need to make the reinvestment back into the community,
So let's frame this in terms of 5 million total, done over 10 years, 500,000, right? That's all these capital improvements, right? I'm just throwing numbers out there again, this is completely off the wall, but 5 million, 10 years, 500,000. 500,000 on property tax would be a 40% increase.
Oh, God.
We're not doing that,
We ain't doing that.
right? Okay,
We all choke.
so, right, so now let's
Yeah.
sort of back into what do we think we need to see
Mhm.
on the bottom line of the 2024-25 capital plan. What is the dollar amount, right? Is it $250,000? Is it 500,000, and then we figure out if we want to debt finance some of it and not the rest? I don't think it's 750. I don't think it's $1 million. And those are big numbers, right? Again, assuming South and Wood, $1 million, that's half our budget. You probably don't want to issue more than one more of those, if any. Maybe we issue another one, right?
I have my own thoughts.
Well,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
I mean, South and Wood, honestly, I think the board needs to do. I'm on record with that.
Yep, you're on record for that.
Yep,
So
because we paid for we spent the money, you're already there.
Well, we've only spent the money on engineering, but I understand.
No, we spent the money with financial advisors, we spent the money with the bonding attorney.
We wouldn't waste it, though.
And we lose the 100,
Well, you kind of lose with the bonding attorney.
Yeah, that's not
and
much.
we lose the 100K grant.
We might lose some of that.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're not gonna do it.
No, no, but I know, but it's good.
I
This
think,
is for purposes of
That's
conversation.
right, that's right.
to me, you do that project.
Okay.
Whatever surplus from that project goes to the next work.
Okay.
Sutherland.
Alright.
So are we going to have to float a bond for Sutherland? I think we do. I don't think we're in a great state not to. I think we need to get these two major roads done. They've just been hanging way too long. Sutherland was a problem long before I even came. Southwood was a problem.
15 years.
Yeah.
So honestly, we get that done.
Can I ask a question on Sullivan before you continue, though? Is that road in any way being
I know what you're
ripped
going to
up,
say.
torn up because of the major development that's taking place?
And I think you take that into consideration and work with that situation and
And can
maybe.
we allay the costs of that?
A little bit.
Maybe, I think you look
You're
at
only
grants,
looking at the upper portion that's by the high school, and they're doing directional drilling, which there'll only be certain tiny spots in the road to connect with laterals. That's it.
So the
That's
answer
it.
is no.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah,
financing it.
and they've been radio silent on even moving forward, so,
Right, well,
so that's another.
so we look at grants, because
Mhm.
we move South and Wood, we get that done, we'll get another grant.
sure.
We try to get that, and I'm sure we can get the sidewalk grant again, or something
Okay.
like similar. Maybe we do half of Sutherland, or maybe we do all of Sutherland.
We can do
Take
Sutherland in
whatever's
two
left
parts.
over from that, well, maybe not $1 million, maybe $500,000
For
Mhm.
Sutherland.
for Sutherland. And we
Okay.
Break it up.
scrunch and scrawn between two
Yeah.
budget years, whatever we need to do to get that whole one done. Once those are done, they're done, they're off the sheet.
They're done, and also, you're going out now with those roads, like 20 years, where then you're just doing oil, you're just doing minor
Mhm.
You know,
stuff.
we have to look at
It's
the
just done.
financing numbers, but, if we can keep the debt, we have a couple debts coming off, and if we can keep the debt still, a bit
And
higher
rolling
than we
things
like
forward.
it, but lower than it is right at the moment,
Okay,
we can finance that.
could you do me a favor then? And this speaks a little bit to the long-term capital plan. It's possible the consultants would ask us to do this. In addition to adding the year vintage for the vehicles,
Mhm.
and then putting it all on one sheet, could you either on the individual sheets for each subsection or on the total, doesn't matter which, maybe the consolidated report makes the most sense here. Could you indicate if it's going to be from reserves or from debt reserve? I think.
Yeah, that's.
I
The
think
lines are
that's-
there, I think.
Yeah, the lines are there.
Okay.
So we'll just
Yeah.
expand. Yeah,
Right, because-
I'm with you.
Then when we're looking at it, let's say we're looking at debt reserve,
Mhm.
then in that case, it's a debt payment on 500,000, which is a heck of a lot more palatable.
Right.
Mhm.
But at that point, you're not issuing any more debt, probably.
No,
That's
that
$1.5
would
million, you're basically done,
be, you're done. I mean,
Mhm.
which means everything else is coming out of cash
Right.
or reserves.
Mhm.
but we're getting in a better position with those two projects.
Sure.
The next big one is obviously Shane, but I think that's a whole
Shane's a giant
Big.
enchilada.
big enchilada.
Yeah.
But the rest of the roads, I think we're on a stable ground to keep up. Once we get those two knocked
Yeah.
down, I think that road infrastructure is habitable. It's a lot. I think there's a way with those numbers to make it all work.
Then all those little niggling maintenance repairs go down,
Everything
same thing when you buy the new
starts to-
equipment, that the maintenance
Then it
line
can be
goes
handled
down.
within the budget.
You
Yeah.
start to see it in other
I think
sections.
And I think when we get this all on one sheet,
Yeah.
and we've got a couple line items that are debt reserve or debt, and everything
Mhm.
else is reserve funded,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we look at what that total number is. For next year, it's still going to be 750,000 based on what we're seeing in front of us here today.
Mhm.
And to generate that, to pay for it next year, it'd be 100% tax increase. We're not going to do that.
Correct.
So I guess this is, again, trying to put it back onto Zach, maybe put it back on the administration a little bit. It's asking, what's the realistic number that we could put
Yeah.
into a 2024
Mhm.
capital plan
Mhm.
without the maybe debt reserve funding element connected to it, right?
Dorothea and Zach are great with this, because they've been doing this for the last, what is the most
So
yeah, I
let's
mean,
talk about
that's
it. But
where it would go.
Yeah.
It's back to where,
what can we do? But this is, to your point earlier, you can put anything you want in the budget, and you come back to us and say, fund it.
Mhm.
How are we funding it?
Mhm.
And I think what I might like to see, couple 100,000, 150,000 of debt reserve, or not debt reserve, reserve, like to try to fund it.
Mhm.
But that's not even close to what we got for 24, 25, or 25, 26. Maybe it's bigger, but $250,000? That's a huge tax increase.
It is. It is.
Yeah, when you see, and also when you see it as a percentage of our overall budget, it's like, wow.
Now, if you decided to finance it with debt, it'd be a lot bigger, lower number, but then you stack on top of it the
And you
roads,
got the,
and now you're 5-to-1 debt to income. It makes no sense.
But I also will point out, and this is something, we did it this year, I wasn't comfortable doing this year.
Yeah.
And this is something, even looking back at comptroller reports and things, you should not fund reserves that don't exist.
Yep.
So when we did the budget for this year, we went ahead and funded reserves we were hoping to make.
No, we will.
We will, but what I want to see is those reserves established this year before I fund.
That's something.
I think we should just go,
So I was under the impression that we could do that.
no.
But it's fine if we can't.
I think it's a bad practice.
Hang on, with that in mind, though, I'd like on the next agenda, we already have language for reserves, so we already know that, and I know you said, I want to see all the reserves before we approve them all. We already have, I'd like to bring at least the reserves that we know we need to repurpose back, and let's just get those going, because we can just do this moving forward. I mean, we have to do something,
Once you have those, I have no problem funding them, or
Yeah.
putting them in the budget,
So
but
this
And
is
then we're
good.
taking the money that we could never access and putting it in the proper reserve.
Yeah, so the funding source, instead of just putting reserves, you could actually put DPW
Yes.
infrastructure.
You could call out the
repair
reserve
Call out the
specifically.
reserve
Yeah.
that we're going to create.
Yeah.
And then there might be some things that don't have a reserve,
Mhm.
and we just have to say, okay, do we create one, or do we
Mhm.
just put it in the general?
Right.
Right? But I'd like to, under those funding sources for everything, call out the reserve, because then.
Well, that's where we're going with
Yeah,
this.
right.
That's,
Then we
we're in
prioritize,
sync.
good.
We're totally in sync.
Prioritize
Yeah.
by reserve.
But we don't have anything established yet. That's why I'm saying, let's start in at the next meeting, just at least with the
Yeah.
ones that we know that we need to
I
do.
think- Yeah, I think.
I mean, we're pretty far along. I think we only
I think
have
we
3 outstanding, but let's
Yeah.
just keep going. Let's just make it
Give
happen.
them a
That way we can start.
Sure.
But just to finish my thought, that way, everything you're saying, because we're in sync on this, we start really literally plugging them in for our funding sources as
Right.
best we can. I'm liking that. It's more transparent and we start to see
Yep.
what's doable, you know?
And when we see it all on one page in the
Mhm.
master, we can say, okay, 30% of the expenses that we've allocated this year are this, 20% are this, and maybe that's how we fund our
And then you
reserves.
break it out that way,
Or
yeah.
maybe we hyper-fund roads and infrastructure for a little bit, or vehicles.
Because, and we may have to do stuff like that because this is all catch up. This is all catching up. This is the
we're
bottleneck.
going to have to catch up a little bit every year
Yep.
because you cannot go, which I
Yeah.
know to that.
This is why I'm spelling it all
Yeah.
out, right?
Right.
The way
Yeah,
my
but
brain's thinking about
I
it.
just want the board to understand this whole capital plan, love it, it's really taking place. We still have a budget that has to have a tentative budget.
You have to have something.
20.
Correct.
We cannot,
We'll get there.
we have to adopt a budget by May 1st. That is in stone.
Okay, we have 15 minutes left for our hard stop, and we have a few things to cover, and then some additional items.
Right, and real quick,
Housekeeping.
Yep, I want to ask the board, looking at our next budget meeting isn't until March 14th. That is not going to work. We need
You
a
need
budget
another one.
meeting like March 4th. Is that doable?
Can you do March 4th?
Next week, so. sure.
I just, looking at the calendar, I'm
And
like,
what day is that?
that was a Monday.
Monday, I think?
I'll float
March
it
4th.
to the
Is that, can that work?
general board,
Yeah,
but
that's-
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, so we have at least a quorum here, so let's pull the other two.
okay. I just
And then I,
don't want to lose any momentum. I don't want to,
Yeah, we've got to really.
March 4th works.
Thank you, good.
okay, so I think take the two changed budgets, take a look. If there's something, you know, with what you have for the capital plan that you feel that should go in there, let me know. You know, if somebody wants to sit down with me,
Yeah,
my
sit down.
office is always open. We can
Mine
play
too.
with numbers on the sheet. I'm always glad to play with numbers on the sheet.
Mine
Say
too.
March 4th at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to speak for Justin, but I'm going to reference some of the comments that he made last time with regards to the debt funding for Sutherland and how I'm looking at all of this. Right? Trying to put myself in his shoes, how he was concerned about authorizing debt relative to the amount of outstanding items that we see in this capital plan. I certainly understand where he's coming from.
Mhm.
And in a way, that's kind of why I threw out that observation that all of this
Mhm.
is sort of with the idea that Sutherland is taking precedent over all of it for $1 million. Part of that is a money grab. We've got some money that we got to use, right? Do it all at once. Part of it is we know it needs to be done. It's one of the major, it is the longest road, right? And we can set ourselves up for a long-term improvement. But as a result of that, there are considerable items that just simply won't get done right away. And that's what I'm hoping for by March 4th, if I could, is some prioritization when we're looking at the consolidated report that's targeting 250 to 350, somewhere in that range per year, and is pushing things down based on the different departments and what they're recommending we delay versus prioritize, because we're just not going to be able to come up with the money otherwise.
Okay, Zach should go and make that meeting.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Can you do it beforehand?
I'll have him take a look and see if they can prioritize each area.
Yeah.
And then he can have the discussion with the board.
Okay, and then my follow-up to that is I think in how we look at the budget, and I'm sorry, Mayor, for jumping in on some time here, but how we look at the budget, we can look at the budget as though none of this reserve funding is taking place. None of the long-term capital planning is taking place besides the debt for Sutherland and Wood. And then the plug number is how much do we raise taxes
Mhm.
to fund reserves? And if we can get the budget to be balanced, or maybe inflation adjusted,
Mhm.
right, 3.7 or 3, whatever, and maybe that's to balance, everything's as is, we do nothing that we need. And then anything amount over that, we just come to an agreement, what are we willing to do? I'm not going to be super comfortable without the long-term plan, but a lot of this document stuff was great. Hopefully by March 4th, we have even better understanding. Kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
And I really would suggest, once, maybe what we'll do is, we'll meet up with Zach, and then he may reach out directly to you for some additional guidance, because you're being very specific about certain things, and I think he may want to follow up.
I just need to push things down.
No, we all
And I
understand
think
it.
and
that's what they've been doing.
comfortable doing that
Right.
without board direction.
Right.
Because he feels that is,
Where's it coming from?
well, that's for him to explain. He knows
Well,
something's got to be pushed.
No, but ultimately, we have the fiscal oversight. He can ask for absolutely anything and say, we need all of it. And
Well,
then-
I need him to prioritize all of it.
Right,
That's-
so
I'll push it
that's
down.
where we go.
He doesn't need me to tell him to prioritize.
I think he wants to
At the end of the day, we're
discussion.
responsible.
Right, I think he wants board input.
Yes, I would agree with that. That was made clear in the last meeting
All right,
that we
all right.
had. Yep,
Well, he can reach out beforehand then, because I think by the 4th, given our
yeah,
budget timeframe,
yeah.
I think he should be coming to that meeting with it prioritized.
Oh, yeah, no, he's on it. I mean, it's not, he's
No,
on
I
it.
think he, in his head, he has it, but he's putting everything.
Okay, enough said. Next.
Okay, so we're past both budgets. Let's see, the phone fiber.
Oh, yeah, phone and fiber, yeah.
It's been ongoing. We need a new phone system for the village hall. It's not going to cost anything more than we already budgeted for phones, because phones are relatively cheap. With the current cost of what we're paying, we can go ahead and make this switch. In fact, it saves us money because we're going to avoid the system.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of a wash, with the only exception, and you have the worksheet that was put together with the numbers,
Mhm.
the Village Hall phone and internet service sheet.
Yeah,
It's this one, Lily.
that's the total expense per
We're
year.
on the phone
I was
system, we're
probably
off the
under
budget, yeah. So, it's just sort of, looking at the bids, looking at what we have currently.
Got it.
So it's really kind of a wash even with the new phone system, because the technology cost has come down for phones in the system. So, and there's far better capability.
Did you do this with a consultant or just in-house having people come in? and
We
find
did it both ways. We reached out, but we found we got better things working with a consultant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the cost differential on just is really to bring fiber in, because if we're upgrading the meeting room, we're finally getting higher speed, all that
Sure.
stuff.
You just need a motion to approve.
Yeah,
Yes, to approve us signing a contract with Nextiva.
Motion to approve.
no, no, it's with Vonage,
Oh, Vonage.
Vonage and Crown Castle.
Okay.
There's two separate ones for the services.
I hate to say this, but if we're wrong on this, we're only wrong by about $200 to $300 a year, right? So
It's
one's
nothing.
better than another.
It's
I mean, this is a.
Right now, we don't
commodity service.
have, right now, I'm just going to say we don't have voicemail.
This is a commodity service.
Yeah, right now, it's just a.
Motion to approve as presented.
And it's a 3-year contract. So
Yeah, 36 months.
Okay.
Okay, second from Lily?
Okay, trustee Marshall,
Aye.
trustee Lampier,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Hi.
motion passes.
Ooh, getting new phone, we can have music on hold. Very exciting.
Ooh. Can we pick the music though? Does every
I
trustee
think
get like a week?
Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, we could rotate that.
Trustee of the
Yeah, cool jazz,
It's
Metallica.
something long coming. I
Little
mean, this
Hendrix.
phone system is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's been very tough.
Acoustic Nirvana.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Words.
Where are we here? Oh, the pro-housing community designation. This, NICOM, this is the last.
Yeah, the last one.
The last one.
I find it a very strange name.
Let me give you the background.
Okay.
Okay.
As I thought.
I know. It's like, who's against housing? I know. It's like, I'm sorry, you have to have a tent. No, this actually came from NICOM to all of the villages.
Okay.
And I had the mayor's dinner last week, and all the villages are signing this. And what it is, it's a, essentially supporting Governor Hochul's pro-housing
Okay.
movement as she's presenting in the budget. With the recognition that New York State needs, housing. What's interesting, because we're so small
Yes,
and we're essentially built out,
yes.
it really doesn't affect us in the same way. So it's more of us just saying, of course, we support your program, not that we can build anything. The only thing that would go in would be 75 Monroe.
Right.
That would be part of it. There's nothing that holds us to anything at all. In other words, we're not, what's the word?
Obligated.
Yeah, we're not obligated. There's no obligation. It's more a, what's the word? Just a supportive
Yeah.
sort of action by the board to say we're pro-housing.
But does it
Yes.
have a downside if you don't do it, you're not eligible for some grants or things?
Well, yeah, that's true too. I mean, if we were to even be eligible for some of the grants, who knows? I mean, maybe if 75 Monroe is built, there may be something we'd be eligible for. Or if we adaptively reuse other larger structures in the village, then it's almost like being a certified local government. There's no downside to it. It's just, if you do it, you're eligible for grant funding. If you don't do it, you're never going to be eligible for any of the grant funding through this program.
Okay.
Okay, and it's tied into other grants that exist, like New York Forward, what's the other one? There's like 4, there's specific grants.
List.
Yeah, there's a big list, but there's 4 like really big ones. I think it's generally geared towards larger communities, but I have absolutely no problem signing this to say, of course, it's a good thing. And if we could get a grant, yay, if there ever would be an opportunity.
In theory, I'm there.
Yeah,
My one hesitation is how it ties into also the governor's plan to, which she has introduced to the past, I don't know whether it's still alive or not, the
ADUs.
removal of
Single family.
single-family housing zoning.
That's gone away. This is a separate program.
Okay.
Separate program. It's an incentive-based program to have you be pro-housing to get a grant. That's why I'm saying it's like being a CLG. You can't get the grant if you're not a CLG.
Right.
So it's geared to, I think, really more for larger communities. It's geared to a more positive outcome because she was so hammered on the ADUs and
Okay.
taking away home rule. This doesn't do that. This is tied, she only tied into the grant package. That was how it was explained to me at the mayor's dinner.
Okay,
You know?
that would be my hesitation.
Yeah, because she had sent her representative for the region to attend the dinner to specifically talk about this.
Okay.
And I can tell you, every other village in Monroe County has already signed it. You know, they're like, what's the downside, you know?
I would certainly hope the direction the village will consider going forward is the adaptive reuse
Oh, yeah,
of, office buildings
Yeah,
and so forth that
I know.
are being used, and to increase our housing stock in that way.
I agree with you.
So
I've advocated for that for years.
I'm hoping that that's what this means, and not that everybody can shop their house into five
Right, no,
apartments.
but I asked that specific question. I said, if we're built out and we also are on the National Register,
Yes.
like, we're not putting up the tower. What if we adaptively reuse like our office parks or something down the road, or do something different? And they said they didn't have all the specifics, but they said, they said they felt it would be covered that way. Understanding if you're built out, you're built out. There's nothing more you can do. So why wouldn't you adaptively reuse what you have in a positive way for your community?
You're providing.
And you're
housing
providing additional
opportunities, and that's the
housing.
point.
And it was geared to, he said, and he hasn't gotten back to me, J.W. Cook. It was geared to, the way the language was, creating new housing, not building new. In other words, you can create new housing. Say if we, did something with Village Grove Office Park.
Yes,
It became adaptively reused for people downsizing or aging, whatever. We could still be eligible for the grants because the language was broad that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm good for that.
So my understanding is slightly different, but not
Mhm.
far off. So once you have to apply to be in the
Yeah.
pro-housing community program.
Mhm.
And one of the things that you have to do is prove, at least for upstate, small municipalities and villages like ours, that you have permitted increasing housing stock by 1% over the last 3 years, right? So 1% of, how many houses do we have in the village?
Oh, it's 700,
I'll go by the sewer bill.
675?
No,
No,
it's like 708.
700 and something.
So you'd have to prove that you permitted 7 new residential units, I suspect, or whatever they call permits, increasing housing stock. So who knows how they define that, by 1% over the past 3 years. I think because it's the past 3, right, it's not the 4 and 3, we have, I can't imagine it runs dry 3 years from now. But this could be, for example, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, if we ever wanted to allow them to be turned into rentals. It could be things like the pickle factory or
Yeah.
something that may happen down on Shane Place. Who knows what happens
Could
there?
be Village Green.
Could be Village Green, could be the major development out there that allows.
Oh, yeah, that would
qualify,
qualify, yeah.
For many years. But what it does is it prioritizes you for New York Forward.
Yep.
So New York Forward is the grant program.
What I just
And
mentioned.
so what I don't know is what all is in New York Forward. I did send a note to the pro-housing community liaison. I haven't got back to them. I'm probably at 1,000. So what I would say is, in general, yeah, I'm on board. I don't think it hurts to delay, a week or two. But if you want to go ahead and have a letter written with the idea that we don't move it forward, but we just review it, and if you wanted to.
This is the letter.
This is the letter?
Yeah, we just cut and paste. In other words, Kathy Sheehan, Mayor Sheehan of Albany, who's the current president of NICOM, was just showing us the letter of intent that she wrote in. And said, if you can just cut and paste it.
Okay, so this is what the letter
It's like
looks
2
like.
sentences.
It's like our intent, and then what they do is they send us an application, we file it, fill it in.
Which we may or may not take action on depending, in other words, there's no harm, no foul, is sort of what they were trying to say.
Okay.
But do you want to bring it back on the they wanted it by the
Tuesday.
23rd though, I
Yeah.
think.
But
Right?
for all intents
By
and
the
purposes, there's no downside, there's only
No,
upside.
no.
That's the way I see
23rd.
it.
Yeah, that's the way it was presented.
If you apply and don't qualify, you don't qualify, but if you
Yeah.
apply and qualify, then you go to the top of the tile with everybody else, rather than being at the bottom.
Right.
Because there might be some who don't submit it.
Oh, absolutely,
And they'll be at the bottom. for the
absolutely.
grants.
Or they won't even be able to apply for certain types of
Certain
funding,
types.
depending.
Right.
You know, that's the way it works because we're a certified local government. If
Okay.
you're not a certified local government, you
Yeah.
cannot apply for certain grants.
So I'm on board, but I would.
I mean, I am too. I think it's pretty straightforward. And I think this is her response, Lily, to the fact that people were rare about the ADUs. That
Yeah.
was a hot mess. And I don't think it was well thought out at all. So I think this is taking a small piece and making something that's more realistic for our communities, particularly in this part of the state. You know, because I think what was really, and the person who wrote the legislation was from downstate, I think from Long Island, who wrote the ADU stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes there are hidden results from
Mhm,
certain
mhm,
actions,
Mhm.
and I just want to like, try to be aware of that.
Oh, for sure.
I look for them too,
Yeah,
and I couldn't find any.
I'd like to think I do too.
Yeah.
So
think
maybe
we all
there's
do,
3 of
right?
us here that
Well,
do.
it's a good thing we all do, right?
Isn't it nice? I
Why we
know.
do this. But what I gather is the state's going to get all of our zoning information. The state's essentially, it's an information grab for them that helps them know what the heck's going on. And there's this little carrot, which is prioritization for grants. So the question is, are we willing to give up our zoning privacy maps and other things on the GICs or whatever
You
to
can
the
look at it
state?
and
That's right.
Mhm.
They're going to get it.
But, I mean, let's just look at the last sentence describing the program, okay? I think this just sums it up. Localities must, submit their housing permit data and any updates to their zoning on an annual basis by the end of March 31st of next year, not this year, to even remain certified and qualify for prioritization for funding, which tells me if we don't do it, then we're out of the hopper anyway. So we have a bailout if we realize that there's some other little trap door we didn't see.
So I think what
We
she's
love the word
saying,
bailout, I know.
if I'm guessing, what she's saying is, we're going to give you a prize if
Yeah.
you change your
Mhm.
zoning
Mhm.
to allow ADUs.
No,
That's what I'm reading.
Oh, no.
you're going to get a prize,
No.
which is priority in grants, potentially,
If
if,
you change your zoning.
I don't even see the words
no,
ADU in here.
No, I'm saying it's implied.
I'm not sure that
I don't think
that's
so.
where it's going. I don't see that.
So what do they
And that
mean by
wasn't even-
changing your zoning? What?
Any updates? No,
Oh,
it's not about you changing your zoning, it's about you updating your zoning. Just
If you update it or.
if you update it.
They just want to know what your zoning is, and if you make any changes, update them with what.
They're just creating, what Dave was saying, is a zoning database.
yeah.
That's all. We don't have to change our zoning if we don't want to.
Okay.
It's
Let's
all
take,
home.
let's take mixed-use office, right? And we decided we wanted to allow residential, maybe we already do residential in there. But nobody ever takes us up on the permitting. Nobody ever converts, but it's available.
Mhm.
We can submit to this program and say, look, we've got flexibility, nobody's taking it though.
Mhm.
We already have that.
Yeah,
Correct, which is why I think we'll actually qualify
We
for
will.
the program.
We'll just qualify anyway.
Regardless.
This is not,
Yeah.
the program is not about getting communities to change their zoning.
Okay. Themselves, when she wasn't successful this way.
Right, so I think what this is the recognition.
Okay.
They're not going to do it unless the local level wants to do it, period. I think that's what this is.
There may
This is
be some communities where the only way they qualify is by changing their zoning.
Exactly.
In which case, yes, that is the goal.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
it isn't for
But
us.
it's not for
I
us.
think
We
that
gotta-
underlying our zoning is always that we always prioritize residential.
Yes.
If anybody wanted to live anywhere,
Mhm.
the answer is yes, because that is our,
Because we're a little village and you
Yes,
can,
right.
so if somebody wanted to live, in the office, the lawyer's office, that's allowed, of course you can.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
I personally would think that would be a lovely
Yeah.
place to live.
I think it'd be noisy as anything.
So do we
Yikes.
want to authorize the mayor to send this?
Yes.
around?
Okay,
All right.
so is there a motion?
Yeah, I'm fine, yes. I'll make a motion to send a letter to Albany saying we're interested in their pro-housing community program with a letter similar to that which the mayor in Albany did.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lanfair?
aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Uh,
Mayor Plummer?
Hi.
Motion passes.
Okay, so, and then Did you pass out the timeline?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Jeff, this just came in. This was a request from Lisa to update the timeline for
Is there a
the,
bill pay too?
no,
Okay.
we paid our bills.
Okay.
No bill pay.
No one's chasing us down. No. We live another week.
Okay, so tonight,
You guys are the best.
the bid package. So that's what we're looking at tonight.
If you want to move forward with the refuse district, we have to take some actions tonight. I need to be directed to put a bid package together. This is the way forward to get it done by May 1st.
Yeah, okay, and then, okay, so then on the meeting on Tuesday, our regular meeting,
Yes.
then you would just present the bid package to the board, and the board could accept it or not, or move it along.
So this is another piece of information that's going to help people in their decision-making also,
Mhm.
I believe.
Yeah,
And once they have the actual numbers, what it could be, what it could look like,
mhm.
that helps make your decision. If you're on the fence, for instance.
Correct, you wouldn't have the bids in until March 15th, so you would have the numbers on March 20th.
This is the
Okay.
administrative piece to get her to put the package together,
In order to make it-
collect the information,
Yes, in order to make an
Yeah.
educated
so we can make a decision.
decision, you have to have the figures in front of you.
Good point.
So
Okay,
Yeah.
for
I'm
that
fine with
reason, I would think that I would want
Okay, okay.
can I
to bid.
Yeah,
say
Dave,
it
any
slightly
thoughts?
different, which is, this doesn't do what we were looking to do before, which is move forward to create a refuse district. This isn't creating a refuse district.
Yes.
No, it's later.
It's later.
Oh, you mean, the first action? No, the
Yeah,
action
so
tonight is
This
just to
is
gather.
the inverse of what we were talking
Yeah.
about before. Okay. I still look at this and say, that's a whole hell of a lot of stuff to do, that my brain is wrapping around a whole bunch of other stuff. And that 8 pages of refuse district stuff, law that was looked at, I still haven't even read, right? I appreciate public opinion. I actually want to move forward with the refuse district, but I've done nothing to that end. However, your time is already paid for. So if you want to put together a bid and put together a package, it doesn't change our ability to say, we're not going to move this forward.
Right.
And you can use that package to put together a bid later in the year, should it be valuable then, just as much as it is now. So to go back to my no harm, no foul,
The
I still
bailout?
have a bailout.
You can see that.
I will instruct Dorothea to put together a bid, assuming that it doesn't interrupt with any of the other work for the budget, the long-term capital plan, and everything else you're doing for us.
Piece of cake. Okay, so is that a motion?
Kind of, yes.
Okay, so that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Marshall.
That is a
Yes.
heck of a motion.
Trustee Lampier.
It's so frustrating.
Yes.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So really, you're putting together, it's an administrative action to get the data. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else for us? Because I think that we've got all the housekeeping stuff done.
Then we got all the housekeeping
Yeah.
stuff. I want to really focus next time on the budget. We really have got to get, because I have to get those numbers for the tentative.
Can I just jump back to the budget?
Yep, sure, let's
Sewer
just
for a
do it. You
moment?
bet, you
And
bet.
I know we're running out of time, but I still do have a little bit of a hard time allocating the 22% for everything. So I'm just going to
Mhm.
throw out some comments in my head
Okay.
that I had jotted down.
Okay.
We don't need to answer them all right now.
Mhm.
First one, does Zach really spend 40% of his time on the sewer?
Yes.
Okay.
And he can tell you that. I mean, he gave, this is part of the algorithm that Dorothea came up with.
Well, again, part of it's arbitrary, that's good.
Mhm.
Zach's 40% was the big number. 20%, 2% of everything else flows through. That includes things like copiers, CPA financial support, website.
Mhm.
Sewer doesn't need a website. Like, if they operated on.
Okay, let
it wouldn't need
me
a
say,
website.
how do people pay in their sewer bills?
They send it in, like,
No, they're paying online.
do they really?
Yes.
Yes, that has a cost.
All right, let's see, what else? Insurance.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's a huge number.
So why
Sewer,
is the sewer paying 22% of our insurance for?
because sewer has had most of the lawsuits that
Yeah.
we have had through insurance. There is a liability to having sewer and backups and everything else.
They have to chip in.
I'm not discounting that they need to pay, I'm just.
You're having an issue with the 22%.
I'm just asking
No, it's
22%
that.
seems like some of it should be 10, some of it should be 15, some should be
That's
25.
very hard to be that arbitrary, and it's going to be a
And
problem. with the
because
contract.
frankly, this percentage with relative to some other villages is much lower.
Yes.
Some of them just go, oh, it's 50/50. They just do it,
Third.
Yeah.
or a third,
Yeah,
third.
and this
depending.
is really based, like we said, we've discussed this to death, but 22% for insurance when
Right.
sewer hasn't contributed anything.
Anything.
All right, I'm gonna,
Anything.
I'm not paying for what's happened in the past.
No, we're not. I'm
Okay.
looking at what they should be.
So let me ask you this, what's the sewer total budget again?
Right now, the sewer's total budget is
No, where is it? Hang on.
360,000.
360.
Mhm.
What's the village's total budget?
1.8.
1.8, so you're talking 20%.
Mhm.
So the budget's 20%, it's actually closer to 15 when you add them together, right?
Where do you want to go with it?
Something less than 22, I just feel like it's too high.
I know you feel that way,
Well,
and
again-
we're looking at the algorithm and the data collection that our clerk treasurer has done with the work of the superintendent. And I know you don't feel that it's right. They're data-driven,
Well, this isn't all.
as best they can be, hang on, you didn't let me finish my sentence.
No, all right.
As best they can be, and also reaching out to other municipalities to see how they do it, which is pretty much involving a dartboard.
Hang on, did we get the other municipalities' sewer rate per?
A lot of them don't have sewer. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of them don't.
And a lot of them, as we said, the way they like Webster, it's within their taxes.
Mhm.
No, they bill.
You know, they bill
but
out.
It's billed out. It's a set code, but what they do is 50/50.
Could,
They do
can you go
50/50.
back, I think we'd asked for it once before, can you go out and just try to put some notes out there, either to NICOM or local municipality, anybody who's got a sewer district, and find out what their rate per, what do we do it, by gallon?
Yeah, it's per 1,000 gallons.
Per 1,000 gallons, can you figure out what the cost per 1,000 gallons is?
Let me see what we got.
Because when I look at this cost per 1,000 gallons, I just want to know that we're below or high. So if we're raising it, okay, are we still well below the average, or are we going up to the higher end? And we got to be able to find that data. It's all public.
I'll look, it's hard to find that data because everybody bills sewer a little bit different, but
Yeah.
I'll see what I can find.
Is there any way if
We're
somebody?
going to give it a shot.
Yeah, sure. Is there any way if somebody was trying to figure out what our cost per 1,000 gallons is, do we know how many thousands of gallons of water we pumped in this village, and is it easily to,
This is done from the county. We get the numbers for the billing through the county.
and it's not easy to find publicly?
It's part of people's water bills.
Yeah, so it's like embedded.
Yes,
Yeah.
they give us the numbers every 6 months.
We just get the numbers.
We just get the
Okay.
We
numbers.
don't get usage that way.
So Mayor, to your point, just like my comments on Zach, how to prioritize the items he's asking for, I don't necessarily know what the right metric is. To some degree, this feels more arbitrary and a little higher than I like, but I recognize that it was probably a little low,
Mhm.
right?
It was non-existent.
So my ask, I guess, to all of us and other members of the board would be to, if there's something different you want to see, what is it? And
Yeah, give me something because whatever happens here affects general.
I know.
Mhm.
Well, thing is, this is like it's like a mystery tax increase, right? Because what's the sewer rate have to go up over here to,
8.5, which
Right.
is still lower than it's been for several years.
For years.
We've done 10
Automatic
Yeah.
across the board every year, 10%.
until last year, and we did, I think it was 8 last year, 7 point something.
Yeah, that was the first year it went down from 10.
Yeah, so
And now
it's
it's
still
down at
being
8.5.
consistent, and it's a true reflection of the service, which,
could you do,
And I think for household, it came, you guys did a quick
yeah, it's
calculation.
not much.
It was like, I don't know,
for dollars.
a couple dollars per household or something.
talking about sewer?
In this budget, do you still have it at 8.5, or did you
Yeah.
take it to 10?
No,
No.
we have 8.5.
8.5, and I think it comes in at, what, you and Zach ran a quick number, $2.50? $2.50
Yeah,
or
it's
something
not much.
per house.
So you didn't adjust it at all from last year?
No, I did, I increased
She
it by
did.
8.5.
Oh, what was it last year?
It was like 7 to 8, it was right in that range, it was like,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What percent of the vehicles are going to be paid for by sewer?
anything that is used by sewer, and depending upon the
Is that
use.
going to be just the 22%? Or do
We
they-
could use that percentage
flush
if
truck,
we
though,
assess. The
the-
flush truck is 100%.
Flush truck is 100%.
Unless it's 100%,
Got it.
you need it's better to have a
Sure.
percentage, because then it's just automatic.
When you consolidate these two things, right, you have one consolidated long-term plan, can you have consolidated general and a consolidated sewer?
Mhm.
Is that possible, or does it get too messy?
I don't
Some of the
know. We have to
things-
look.
Yeah,
Maybe
let's,
just do a single one for now.
let's sort it, we'll sort that, I know where you're going with
Because
that,
if
I
we can
know.
lower the cost to the general by knowing some of this is
Yeah.
getting paid for by sewer, it makes it all a little bit more palatable.
And I think they did try to highlight things that were sewer split.
They did.
They did, they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, and if the board would agree on a percentage, once that percentage is agreed upon for these arbitrary numbers, goes across the board for all those items.
Got it.
Mhm.
I have a note that says, why did the flush truck expense disappear? Is that because you took it out? There's a flush truck expense.
Where are you looking?
in-
Next year.
In the sewer budget.
Flush truck wasn't this year, flush truck is next year. I mean, next budget cycle.
No, because I left that blank, that is blank, because I need numbers from Zach.
Oh, yeah, that's right, a
So
couple
there's
numbers.
some-
Zach
It's
still has
been
some numbers.
10,000, but we haven't spent it.
Oh, yeah, that's the one I caught, yeah, I
And
know.
there was a question whether we were replacing the flush truck
I was
because
saying
Right.
it's on next year, it wasn't this
And that's in,
budget cycle.
that's in a reserve already.
that's in a reserve
That's
already.
that's
and I don't-
already in a reserve.
And I think there's arguments whether a flush truck is the right vehicle.
Exactly, and that's why the language to repurpose that reserve has
Right.
broader language
Correct.
for
But no, I
sewer.
didn't budget anything in there.
Yeah,
You know, we can put zero, we can shift from.
and that's why I'd like to be able to at least us vote on some of these repurpose reserves at our next meeting, so we can really start to flush it out.
But the
You had to say it.
interesting thing is, though, that the percentage wouldn't really change from year to year. Once you've established the percentage, the percentage
For
is
the
the
most part,
percentage.
yeah, I think we're
The board
really right.
agrees,
Yeah.
unless
So
there's
now we can
something.
take
But
major.
then it becomes a known set of data, it's known, and then,
Yeah,
it's just.
and what changes is how
Right,
much
right.
revenue you get from the.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
derivative.
Unless something major changes, you know, where we're doing a lot more sewer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or general
right.
government.
the
I don't
percentage is-
foresee that number changing. I
it's
mean,
stable, okay.
Mhm.
it's pretty stable number because of what it's based off of.
Yep.
But honestly, you know, even one of the things that popped up this year is we have an annual support package for a sewer software that has always been paid by general. And it
Yes.
is truly a sewer bill. I mean, it's just, it has to be worked out.
Yeah.
I just,
So, okay, so let's say I concede on some of that. Mayor, would you think that you're putting 20% of your time to the sewer?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Really?
Yep.
How's that possible? Sorry, I had to say it louder for the public.
I can just think of, there's not a meeting that I have, I meet with Zach a minimum of one time a week, a minimum. There's not a meeting that I've had with him, I don't think, where we have not had at least a discussion with the sewer, when we go through the sewer bills, the sewer rents. I mean, it just,
residents calling in. I know.
residents, yeah. I'm thinking of our resident, our friend over on Jefferson,
Yep.
dealing with that right now.
20% though. I mean, I don't mind putting some, like, I'm okay, like, trying to figure it out.
What
Could you
percentage
just-
would you like to see? What does that look like to you? Because I know
don't I mean,
you don't
I have
feel.
to defer,
Well-
because I don't have keen insight.
I mean, I didn't have a problem with the 20%, and then there may be some time that goes by where there's not a lot on sewer, and then we have a sewer issue. And, I'm called at home, or I come, I mean, you just, it's the ebb and flow.
It really is. And
That's
honestly,
the fun.
when the bills go out, understand, right now, most of my staff is processing sewer bills.
That's all they're doing, pretty much. I mean, it's
Right
just
now.
100%.
That is 100% taking
Well,
costs.
And the public coming in.
So you look at, there's at least 4 months where we're dealing with sewer.
Well, we talk about sewer a lot on our
Mhm.
trustee team here, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And we're only 10%.
that's because the board didn't feel comfortable when I had proposed a different number.
Good.
That's right, she dropped it.
Maybe we could pull the mayor down to 10%.
I am more than 10%, I'm going to tell you right now.
And I'll
If you-
tell you,
If you're, no, like, I want to follow your line of thought. I want to
Good.
follow your logic. If you guys are comfortable with 10% because you talk about it at board meetings, so I'm already at 10%. Now, I'm dealing with other aspects internally with my superintendent, where we have meetings about it, where I'm dealing with the staff, when we are issuing our sewer bills, I'm dealing with the public. You don't think that's another 10%?
Well, Matt's off, but that's okay. We'll move on. Because, no, because the mayor,
I'm following your own line of thought, Dave.
well, all right, I'll put.
If you're all in at
I'll
10%
follow the logic
discussing here,
then. I'll
and I'm
argue the
discussing in addition in other areas of my
I'll
work, what do you want,
argue the point.
15?
I'll argue the point.
Do you want
As
15?
mayor, if for every 10 minutes spent, we spend 1 minute here, and you spend 9 minutes elsewhere plus 1 minute here, right? Which you do, you spend more time,
I do spend.
right? You're not just here in these meetings
No,
like us,
I know,
or just
I
at
know.
home doing the work,
I
right?
know,
So our 10% here
okay.
for you is still.
In addition
only
to what I've
10% of
already
1%.
done.
That's right, it's only 10% of 1%.
Mhm,
That's what I'm
just
saying.
saying,
You do
okay.
more work than,
So then you're in agreement with me.
so you're doing good work, but I think 10%.
For the
Can I point out
record, I
one
think Dave's agreeing with me.
Can I point out one thing? You're looking at the 22%. You're trying to be too perfect. There's a flaw in trying to be too perfect. You are never going to get that
And
number.
the controller recognizes
I don't
that.
even have an answer.
And that's where you find something that you use as an aggregate and you work with it.
Which is the reason why I'm asking for other data to know whether or not we're an outlier, high or low, or.
Yeah, okay.
But
So we're
let
trying
me
to
put it this way. We changed the mayor's percentage. That number isn't going down
Yeah,
because the way the aggregate is. It's not going to drop.
It's not gonna
If it
drop.
dropped, maybe it go to 21%. So again, we're going to spend more time
Right.
I mean,
They're trying to be-
in other words, at the end of the day, is this realistic enough
correct.
for our village and how we break out two different tax bases that need to
Be broken.
stand alone and support
Because we might
themselves?
be, let's say the number for
Oh, yeah, okay.
copies is low.
Mhm.
You know, another number, if we could be doing more in school, then we're charging 22%. So it averages out. It's
I know what you're trying to achieve.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
There's no perfect, I don't even know I don't know the answer. I'm just arguing that.
You're- okay. Can we move on?
See, we got there at the same time.
Okay, and we
Last
are,
question.
we're past our hard
Last
stop.
question.
Dave
If we
always has one more
allocate salary-
question.
If we allocate salary, don't we need to allocate New York State labor SUI and disability insurance? And if
We
we do, the labels are slightly different and could be consistent.
Okay, I see where you're going.
I could allocate those, and they haven't been allocated in the past.
So let's do
No,
it.
it's just the consistency of labeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The labeling in the general was different than the
No,
labeling in the sewer. And when I was searching for it in the PDF and.
oh, I see, you want to see it consistent across
Well,
both.
honestly, I will tell you that unemployment isn't in here, and it should
It
be.
should be.
Well, whatever you got to do
Let's
to
dump it
allocate,
back in.
and have the labels match and allocate the
Mhm.
right
Yeah,
stuff.
that's fine.
That's helpful.
All right.
You get points.
I got points.
Okay. Poor Lily's freezing.
I am, I
I
don't know.
know, my hands are like
me.
ice. No, I'm freezing too. Okay, we're good? We have action items? We know where this is going?
Good enough, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall? Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, this was good. This was a great discussion. I think it's all good.
Yeah.
Are we,
Progress.
are we